My name is Alf Stewart. My company is Searchlight Resources, a Toronto Stock Exchange venture listed company, trades under the symbol SCLT on the TSX venture market. Our company is a mineral exploration company searching for critical metals and gold in the province of Saskatchewan, Canada.
Alf, good to meet you. Good to speak to you. We've never not met or spoken before. So why don't we start off with who are you and what have you done relative to what you're trying to do here?
I'm a semi-retired investment banker with a degree in geology who's explored for mineral deposits across Canada, and I've been involved in the mineral exploration business globally for the last 40 years. I'm part of a management team with Searchlight Resources, a vastly experienced management team. The collective experience of our board of directors is 150 years. We're exclusively focused on exploring in the province of Saskatchewan for the reason that it's consistently ranked as one of the top three mining jurisdictions in the world, and it has unique advantages in the field of critical metals and gold.
Okay, but so talk to me about the plan. What you guys have set out to do, right? We're sitting at a couple of $1 million market cap today, and I'm sure you want to go on to bigger and greater things in the future. But you need a plan. So what's the plan?
Our plan since 2017 has been to collect a portfolio of 100% owned properties, advanced exploration properties. And the way mineral tenure works in Canada is you spend money on the properties, you preserve title to them. If title lapses, the government has periodic releases where they announce an area is going to be open for acquisition. And for the last 7 years, Searchlight has been acquiring properties throughout Saskatchewan that are very advanced in nature. And the sum total of the value of the properties we've acquired vastly exceeds the market valuation of Searchlight. Now, how are we going to develop this portfolio? We're a prospect generation company. So basically, we acquire the properties, we do preliminary exploration, and we offer these properties to partners to advance development.
They spend their money on it, and you get
Yes.
some kind of carry. Okay. So let's talk about some of the properties, and I might help get into some of those structures that you have done or looking to do. So what's the commodity we're looking at?
Well, let's start with critical metals, specifically rare earths. Uh, Matthew, you're familiar with the lithium boom that's happened around the world, specifically hard rock lithium deposits in Australia, Canada, and other jurisdictions. And they're hosted in a rock type called hard rock pegmatites. You've probably heard this term. Well, imagine, if you will, that there's a class of hard rock pegmatites that are not enriched in lithium, but are enriched in rare earth elements. And in my view, much more significant than lithium for the reason that the rare earth commodities are 10 times the value of lithium. Lithium is worth about $10 a kilogram, current market. Rare earths, the leading magnet metal rare earths, neodymium and praseodymium, are worth $100 a kilogram. So 10 times more valuable, but they're extremely rare. Northern Saskatchewan, however, is blessed with a large number of rare earth pegmatites, and we have established a regional play in the Athabasca Basin area of rare earth pegmatites. And all of these pegmatites are undrilled, and we've been able to explore this belt in northern Saskatchewan very cost effectively.
Okay, and any other commodities that we should be sort of ticking off that
Yes,
you're after as
uranium.
well? Right.
When I say critical metals, these rare earth pegmatites also have uranium. And we're talking about the Athabasca Basin area of northern Saskatchewan, where the uranium grades are up to 100 times the average mining grade of uranium in the rest of the world. So we're involved at the periphery of the Athabasca Basin, where there's been a huge amount of uranium exploration done. And this benefits us for the reason that rare earth elements are in radioactive minerals. The main ore mineral for rare earths is a mineral called monazite, and monazite consists of a phosphate matrix, thorium, which is radioactive, and then the whole collection of rare earth metals from the light to the heavies. So if you want to explore for rare earths, the simplest thing to do is to do a radiometric survey looking for the thorium radiation. And in the northern Saskatchewan area, a huge number of surveys have been done looking for radioactive elements. And of course, when uranium decomposes, it decays to thorium and other elements. So when you do a radiation survey over this very prospective area of northern Saskatchewan, you find both thorium and uranium. And the industry's done that for 40 years. And when they found thorium, they ignored it. When they found uranium, they drilled it. Well, on our properties, there's over 50 thorium showings, and our work has shown that that thorium is from the rare earth monazite mineral. So we've gone and done regional work, and we have found a huge regional play of hard rock pegmatites mineralized by rare earths. And the grades are some of the highest grades you'll see in the world. We have got assays from surface up to 50% total rare earth elements. We have sampled our deposit. We've done metallurgical tests, and we have found that we can beneficiate. In other words, we can concentrate the rare earth minerals effectively. And the other advantage for us for the rare earths in Saskatchewan is the Saskatchewan government has built a rare earths refinery in Saskatoon specifically to process the mineral monazite, which is what we have. They have built this refinery on spec. There is no commercial source of monazite within the province of Saskatchewan. So, as I mentioned, the rare earth mineral monazite is radioactive. If you want to import monazite into Saskatchewan, you're going to have to ship this hazardous material in hermetically sealed containers from somewhere else in the world. So clearly there's a demand for rare earths in Saskatchewan. The refinery is there, and we have high-grade rare earth deposits that are undrilled. So we believe this is the most important thing that we have. But these rare earth pegmatites also have uranium, and uranium is extremely valuable and maybe even more valuable in the future, especially in a secured jurisdiction such as Saskatchewan.
Okay, right. And I just want to finish off on the commodity side of things. So you also talk in your marketing material about gold, nickel, copper, zinc,
Yes.
VMS
So
as well. Let's finish those, then I'll come back to rare earths, uranium, thorium.
okay. So I've described our leading rare earths property. We have really three major projects. Our second major project is gold in the Flin Flon area, which is on the eastern border of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Flin Flon is a mining town. It is the home of Hudbay Mining, a multi-billion-dollar copper company, and it grew up based on mining base metals in Flin Flon, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. And we have a district scale play in Saskatchewan on the west side of the Flin Flon base metals belt, and it hosts both base metals and gold. It's a greenstone belt. Greenstone belts around the world host massive sulfide deposits and vein gold deposits. On our property, we have 4 former producing gold mines that have been virtually untouched since the last gold boom in Saskatchewan in the 1980s. And the industry's changed quite a bit since the 1980s. There used to be very, very small scale mines in Canada, and now only large scale mines are developed in the market. So we have developed a play around the Flin Flon area for gold. And our third major project is a uranium deposit just outside of La Ronge, Canada. It's the most southerly uranium deposit in Saskatchewan. And it was very fortuitous that we were able to acquire it. And you may recall that between 2010 and 2020, the uranium market went through the worst bear market in history due to the nuclear accident in Fukushima, Japan. And the Japanese government shut down approximately 25 nuclear reactors, and they actually liquidated the uranium inventory. Well, our property, Doddridge Lake, was being explored by one of Saskatchewan's leading uranium explorers when this bear market hit. And so they focused their efforts on their second property, which is called Patterson Lake South, and they dropped Doddridge Lake. So we were fortunate to acquire this in the bear market. We've done additional surveys on it, and it has a modest resource of uranium, which is shallow and open in several directions. So those are our 3 properties. We have rare earths in the Athabasca Basin. We have gold in the Flin Flon camp in eastern Saskatchewan, and we have uranium in La Ronge in north central Saskatchewan.
Okay. So, your prospect generator, obviously, you're going to need to pick the right partners. It's not just a case of money, but companies that can actually advance things. Because we've seen a lot. Like we do a weekly uranium show. We do rare earth shows. We do gold shows. We understand these commodities extremely well, and a lot of the players in it. As a prospect generator, your success is going to be tied to who you partner with, right? So rare earths has been very volatile. It's down at the moment. It's not easy for groups to raise capital against rare earth projects, whatever the kind of critical mineral lists may suggest that the needs are. So how do you go about selecting for on the rare earths project? How do you go about selecting the right groups who have access to money at this time?
It's difficult other than just advertising through our press releases and networking to find where the buyers are, and also working with the Saskatchewan Research Council to identify potential partners. And that's what we're doing right now.
Right. Right. Okay. So, and obviously you mentioned the SRC demonstration plant there. That's extremely useful for sure. But that in itself is not going to be enough to kind of help Canadian rare earth projects get funded. So, how do you see your focus on or prioritization of projects? Uranium. Whatever the spot prices ended up at last year, we know that it's coming. There's huge demand for that kind of baseload energy. So again, you don't want to get one of these kind of cowboy management teams coming in here, just jumping on the bandwagon. Do you find it's going to be easier to kind of prioritize the gold project in Flin Flon, the uranium projects in Saskatoon? Saskatchewan, you said, wasn't it? Yeah. And how are you prioritizing your time and effort? Small company, limited resources. You've got to be efficient with your time and money. So again, what do you think is going to be the most likely first success point for you?
I say that we're a prospect generator, but we also spend our own money, and we have raised money through flow-through funding in Canada. And in Saskatchewan, there's a critical metals flow-through benefit and a provincial flow-through tax credit. And then there's the general federal flow-through deduction. So there's an extreme incentive to invest in rare earths. Gold is a little less tax advantaged, but gold is more generally attractive in the current market. Today, gold prices in Canadian dollar terms are at all-time highs. So we are talking to majors about our gold project. And I should say that our CEO is extremely experienced in developing gold deposits. I mentioned that last major phase of gold exploration in Saskatchewan was in the 1980s, and it was on a very small scale. We have 4 former producers on our property, but those gold mines only produced perhaps up to 10,000 ounces of gold per year. And the last major mining operation on our property was done in 1989, when gold was $350 an ounce Canadian. Gold is over $3,000 an ounce Canadian now. So when you apply the metrics of current gold price to this past operation, I can say that if this mine were in production today, it would be profitable. And it's got an underground development there, and all of the infrastructure is available. Our property is only 5 kilometers from Flin Flon. In Flin Flon, there is a massive tailings dam. There is a mill that was formerly operated by Hudbay, but it's on care and maintenance because there's no ore at Flin Flon. There's mining infrastructure, roads, labor force, everything you would need. So if we can develop a resource on our property, it should be quite quickly developed to commercial stage, much more than a greenfields project.
Right, but let's talk about the realities of doing something like that. A resource of what size to attract what money from where, etc.
If we look at some of the major gold discoveries in Canada and Australia, what we find is you'll have these historic workings along major shear structures. So, for example, the Golden Mile deposit just outside of Perth, Australia, used to be a bunch of mom and pop gold mines sitting on a major shear zone. Somebody came along and said, my goodness, there's a major structure here. If we consolidated all this and did a massive open pit, we'd have a huge gold mine. Similarly, in Canada, the Detour Lake Gold shear zone is called the Sunday Lake Shear Zone. It had a bunch of small operations and showings and drill holes on it. And a company called Detour Lake Gold came along and developed it as a major gold mine. Our CEO, Stephen Wallace, drilled off 4 million ounces of the Detour Lake Gold discovery. And when he looked at our gold property in Saskatchewan, he saw a similar pattern. In other words, three of our gold mines sit on one shear zone. It's called the Rio Fault. And wherever this major shear zone is crossed by secondary structures, there are gold deposits. And no one's really looked at the potential to develop a large scale gold mine on this shear structure. It's virgin. So there's our potential. And there are
Right, but
gold mining companies. Yes?
yeah, but I get it, but it's a big leap to there. What I'm saying, I want to deploy capital. I want to, and I'll, put some down on the Explore Co side of things if I can sort of see the process that a company's going to follow to kind of, hit all of these kind of, quite sexy phrases and delivery points. You're at a point where you're going to need money to deliver a resource, and the question simply is, how big a resource do you think you're going to be able to deliver it yourselves with your capital before you kind of need to bring other people's money in to shore up the balance sheet and make it in a nice possible way, kind of make it their challenge, their problem, and you can say get free carry up until whatever stage you negotiate, because there's lots of small gold Explore Co projects last year. You'd expect with the gold price doing what it did to be flying, but the market kind of didn't care. The big boys are looking at developers with resources or mergers of equals. They're buying production. So which groups are going to buy the potential of gold Explore Co based on what you've got? So maybe you need to know, maybe we can have a conversation about a little bit more about what you know of that project, what you've got today, and what you think, where you think you can take it
Right.
before you hand it over. That would be useful.
Okay. Within the Flin Flon district, as I mentioned, there are four former producers. There was a historic resource on the biggest gold mine on our property in 1989. It's around 150,000 ounces. We additionally acquired a second property, and we've done a target definition study on that. There's over 80 drill holes on the property. We've identified between 75 and 150,000 ounces there. And Matthew, this is all shallow. This is down to a depth of about 100 meters. And typically these zones have deep roots. And Hudbay Mining is operating 5 kilometers away from our property. They have been mining copper in Flin Flon for over 70 years, but they've run out of ore. So they've got this massive mining complex, tailings dam, mill, everything sits there. And if they can't develop further sources of ore, they're going to have to go into a reclamation process, which will cost them hundreds of millions of dollars, because a lot of this was historically done when environmental standards were very low. If we can find a resource, even of a few 100,000 ounces of gold near Flin Flon, we can extend the life of their mill and their tailings dam. And we're only 5 kilometers away. So we can see that there may be interest from Hudbay in doing this, because I know that they're actually studying the gold content of their existing tailings and perhaps reprocessing that. There are other gold mining companies in the district who are also interested in our properties. So to directly answer your question, we're seeking joint venture funding from other partners now. We don't intend to spend more money on our gold property ourselves. I think we would direct our further funds into grassroots exploration on our rare earths and uranium properties rather than gold.
Yeah, you mentioned a detour in there, and I think because Gerald Penatal has been on a few times, sort of explaining how that thing came together. So it was interesting. Okay, we're going to park the gold up. I know what you're trying to do there. Makes sense. You want to get focused on uranium. So again, what do you know? Because you're talking about lithium pegmatites, and everyone's jumping on the lithium pegmatite story last year, and that's kind of blown up in their faces. You were seeing reports of on the lithium side of prices not moving till end of 2027. It's saying so lithium's oversupply till 2027. So you're not after lithium per se. You're after
No,
the uranium in the pegmatites. That's what you're
that's
going
right.
for.
It's a
Okay.
different style of pegmatites. If the pegmatites form when rock formations are deeply buried, partially melted, and then the pegmatites form. It's like a process of distillation. And the bedrock in the northern Saskatchewan area is extremely enriched in rare earths and uranium. The academic geologists I've talked to say that the Walston Formation that we're in is 5 times richer than uranium than the average bedrock source. So we've got a very, very good host rock for our bedrock pegmatites. And we're doing low cost exploration. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how we're prospecting this at very low cost. So
Please do.
the advantage of exploring for uranium and rare earths is they're radioactive. And northern Saskatchewan is very thinly covered by soil, and there's a lot of exposed bedrock. So airborne radiation surveys directly reveal the sources of uranium and thorium at surface. And we have worked with a group out of Calgary, Alberta, that has developed a massive crystal array radiation detector. They fly it in a crop duster airplane, and we fly over our property, which is relatively flat, at a 50-meter space. And this focuses on a cone of about 50 meters in diameter. And even if there's a boulder that's mineralized with uranium or rare earths that's the size of a tabletop, it'll detect it. And it's digitally located. We've flown this survey over a 30-kilometer long belt. We have found a massive radiation anomaly that's 12 kilometers long. Our most recent press release stated that we have found a high grade thorium rare earth source that is 450 meters by 600 meters in surface dimension. It's undrilled, but previous exploration has trenched the middle of this anomaly, and we have found rare earth grades with gross metal values over $1,000 a ton. So this is a world-class rare earth target that's never been drilled, and it's relatively accessible. It's about 30 kilometers from a road that goes from Saskatoon to the Kulyk Lake uranium mill. The Kulyk Lake uranium mill is one of the largest mills in the world, where they process radioactive uranium ores and have a tailings dam which contains uranium and thorium. So we're 50 kilometers from one of the largest mills in the world. And by the way, that mill was built to provide a source for the Kulyk Lake uranium mine, and that mine has been exhausted. So there's a mill, there's a tailings dam. We've got a big anomaly close to a road. There's a refinery down the road. I mean, the logistics that are set up for developing a successful rare earths operation are extremely good. And we're still at the preliminary exploration stage, where exploration is relatively cheap.
Okay, so how does this thing move forward? Because, like we said at the beginning, rare earths at the moment, it's let's say volatile to say the least. It's hard to get funded, etc. Are we separating out the extraction of uranium from rare earths, or is this a uranium monazite / rare earths project in one? How does it work? Who are you going to attract?
I think that we're going to attract people that are interested in the uranium business. I think that uranium will be a byproduct because from our initial assays, the rare earth values are much higher than uranium values, but the uranium values in and of themselves are significant. We have surface showings of 1% uranium. The average grade of uranium mining in the world is 0.1%. So we've got attractive uranium grades, but our rare earth grades are up to 50% total rare earths. So
Right.
I think that we've actually been talking to people who believe that uranium consumers will be looking at these rare earth deposits as a potential source of uranium as well.
Okay. Interesting. Right. So how do you go from where you are now to some kind of monetization of event agreement,
Right.
etc.?
Well, we're seeking joint venture partners right now. And if we don't attract a joint venture partner over the next several months, well, then we will go into a summer exploration program where we will assess this recent area that I just described at Daly Lake, where we've got this outstanding trench in the middle of this massive radiation anomaly. And we'll simply prospect it at surface and do further sampling to prove to the market this is a potentially very large rare earth discovery. So just to talk about size, we described that the zone that we've mapped out at surface using our airborne survey, 450 meters wide, 800 meters long. If we take those numbers and average them, let's say that's a surface dimension of 600 meters square. And if we say that the potential depth is 600 meters, that represents 500 million tons of rock. So our target size is huge. It's potentially open pitable because we're talking about surface mineralization. We're talking about a size that would support an open pit operation with large tonnage. And we're talking about grades that are extraordinary. A typical open pit mine has gross metal values of under $100 a ton. this trench that we have in the middle of this anomaly is $1,000 a ton plus. So I think it's an outstanding target, and surface exploration is what's needed. So this is what's really exciting about Saskatchewan. No one's really seriously looked at the rare earth potential of northern Saskatchewan, other than a brief period on this property back in 2011 when China cut off the rare earth exports. You remember there was a period where Japan and China had an argument over rights in the South Sea, and China cut off the supply of rare earths, and the price of neodymium and praseodymium tripled over a period of a year or two. There was a significant interest in rare earths then, and that's when this property was last explored. Today, I think that it represents an attractive target, but with uh, rising trade tensions between the United States and China's total domination of the rare earths market, I think it's incumbent upon governments, if not industry, to develop rare earth sources within North America. And this is a logical place for that.
Right. Okay. Okay. So if you can't find a JV partner now, you will get back in the field yourselves and continue drilling out to kind of show what you've got. Okay.
Yes.
Then what do you think you're going to need to lay out to attract people? Because we have seen a few sort of rare earth company attempts in Canada, but they're not been big enough. They're not been good enough to attract funding because, well, at the end of the day, these things got to be economic. We're not here just to kind of pay salaries. We've got to build businesses. So for you guys, your job is to say, right, it's big. Here's the reasons why we believe it's big. It's got the grades. Here's more data on the grades. And if someone spends a bit more time and effort on this thing, they might be able to kind of close the circle on the infrastructure needed to be able to process this stuff, in the province and work out how they actually monetize this thing eventually. Because that's with the ex-China component has always been a struggle for rare earths, right? It's a very sort of technical commodity, and not a lot of people outside of China have that commodity. We work with Energy Fuels, for instance, and it's been a hard slog for those guys to kind of get to where they are now. It's finally maybe paying off, but they're one of the very few that have kind of gone through that process. So in terms of JVing, I guess it's a very small select group of people that you could appeal to.
Yes. So what I would say is we have been working on this property for 4 years. What we knew about the property when we acquired it back in 2018 was that it was one of the highest grade monazite showings in the world, but there was no indication that it had any size. So the original showing at Kulyk Lake was a small vein about a meter wide, and our radiation survey didn't show any continuation to the north or the south. We stood back. We did this massive radiometric survey with our crop duster, and we have now found a zone that is huge, which also has high grade. So up until this point, I don't think we had a project that didn't have significant doubts, basically doubting the size. But with the size of anomaly that we have found at Daly Lake, this could be one of the largest rare earth pegmatite swarms in the world. I mean, I've looked at the deposits in Australia, the lithium deposits. The biggest one is called Greenbushes in Western Australia. This thing is comparable in size and richer in grade because rare earths are worth 10 times as much as lithium. So I don't think the market understands this is a unique proposition. It's a hard rock pegmatite, mineralized in rare earths and uranium, and grades 10 times that of lithium. And our radiation surveys say it's world-class in size. And there's a refinery down the road, and there's a mill and a tailings dam up the road. I think that's a compelling story.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll be successful telling it this year.
Well, how do you make money? How do your shareholders make money in terms of what's the potential for the deal structures? We get the kind of prospect generation model, but they all have their own peculiarities. So what are you mentioning happens?
Well, if we do a joint venture, then our carried interest in the property will make money for the company. And, our market cap is less than $2 million. So I believe that any joint venture with us will make a return to shareholders. That's basically it. If we sell our properties outright, I think they're worth several $1 million, a multiple of our current market cap. If you consider like our gold property around Flin Flon, It has a $5 million added on it. It has over 70 drill holes on it as well. That's several $1 million in value. And basically, we expect to be paid for that if we sell it.
Right. Okay. So, but you believe you can raise money to kind of do, say that doesn't happen anytime soon. You believe you've got enough money to kind of, you've raised enough money, or you will be able to raise more money to actually get after a summer program yourselves to kind of, I guess, see if this thing hangs together.
Yes. So let me talk to that. How do we possibly think that we can raise enough money given our low market cap? That's a very serious question that investors will have. Well, what you've got to understand is it costs virtually nothing to hold land in Saskatchewan. Basically, if you do exploration, that gives you credit towards holding the title. Our Flin Flon district is in good standing until 2040. We don't have to spend a dime. We don't have to pay underlying property owners. And our company itself has a very, very low burn rate. It's basically two people running the company, the CEO and myself. And we are both major shareholders, and we're investing directly in the shares of the company because we believe in the value of these properties. So we have a low burn rate, small company. We have a large land portfolio, which has an extraordinary amount of work done on it. We've got very good results, both on the gold, rare earths, and uranium side. So we do believe we'll be able to raise modest sums of money to continue our low cost exploration. And we also believe that we'll be able to joint venture and or sell our properties. And I actually view it as being a former investment banker. We actually have three companies in one. We have a gold project in Flin Flon, a uranium project in La Ronge, and a rare earths property in the Athabasca Basin.
True, but you need to demonstrate. They're different, but at the same time, they suffer from the same challenge, which you've got to demonstrate. Is like we can find partners, JV partners, to come in with their balance sheet and do the work necessary to move this thing forward through the phases, right? So right now it is one company trying to say we will be able to do this. Have you had conversations with groups? How many people have looked at these assets, or if they haven't yet, when do you expect them to maybe get in a data room and start those conversations?
Yes. So we have done small deals to date. We did a joint venture on our lithium properties. We have sold some of our uranium properties, and we are currently in discussions with three different groups on our gold and uranium properties. So, I'm very optimistic that there's interest. And I'm particularly interested in the uranium potential because I think uranium is poised for another leg up. And we have a drill ready uranium prospect available in Saskatchewan.
Okay, well, I agree with you. I think it is due a leg up, for sure. Well, like I think that's been sort of a really interesting run through, and like we do like prospect generation model companies, we do, and it takes a little bit longer sometimes, and you've got to get the right sorts of deal structures for you guys. So, like, I wish you well for this year. I mean, do stay in touch with us and let us know how you get on, and who you're going to be working with, etc. When the time is right. Appreciate your time today, Alf. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew.